Okay, so if you don't know, My Hero Academia is ending in about, I don't know, 13 days. And you know what I thought to do in the 13 days is, well, read it. Read all of it. So I have had some history with My Hero Academia. I watched about the first 4 seasons of the anime, and I even bought the box set. But I've actually never read it, and actually I don't even have the box set with me because a friend of mine's kid wanted to read it, so I let them borrow it, you know, sharing the love and joy of manga with others. That's what we're supposed to do. But I do have the Shonen Jump app, and having not read any of it in 13 days, if we do the math, it's about 34 chapters a day. Which I know what you're saying, that's not crazy. Here's the thing, I also want to get this video out the Sunday that the chapter gets released on Shonen Jump. Yeah, that's where the problem comes in. So I'm already going to go apologize. I probably didn't post a video last week, but it's because I'm working on this video. And hopefully, I think this will be fun. Because regardless of how I feel about kind of what made me fall off of the anime, My Hero Academia is, I think, one of the most important anime and mangas to come out in the last 10 years. Because I think it was the perfect storm of Marvel superhero movies and manga to get people into this hobby. So what better way to send it off than to read all of it? And again, let me say, 13 days. Technically not even 13 days, it's 9 p.m. So like 12 days. This is definitely a mistake. I am sorry. What? This is going to be more difficult than I thought. Start to time my chapter read-throughs. Yeah, those are my laps. So I remembered why I stopped watching the anime.
I have way too many chapters to read by Sunday. So, and putting this video together.
So I get it, this is probably a long video. There's going to be timestamps. What I'm going to do is by arc. I was thinking about like by volume, by chapter. I feel like that would be too much, and to be honest with you, I think arc by arc will definitely work for this video, so you can hop around down below in the timestamps. Okay, so by the end of last night, I got to chapter 13, and I know what you're saying. You're like, hey man, I thought you were reading 33 chapters a day. Yeah, here's the thing. Sometimes you just get sleepy, you know, and this is going to be more difficult than I thought. But the thing about it is, with having work and everything like that, what I'm really banking on is this weekend and then the Saturday and Sunday before the final chapter, 340. Right here is where I messed up, almost missing 100 chapters. And that's why I thought this was going to be a little easier. But anyway, thanks for clicking on the video. Back to the video of My Hero Academia releases on the Shonen Jump app. That's what I'm banking on, is the weekends, because if you guys know, like once you have a job, like throughout the week, it's tough to do. But here we are, chapter 12. And I will say this, right? So I forgot how well My Hero Academia sets up its world, its characters, its rules, and everything so quickly. And it's even faster in the manga. Because like I said, I watched about season 4 or 5, the school festival arc in the anime. Never read the manga, this is my first time. And to be honest with you, I was surprised that it felt so quick. Because even though I have watched this stuff before, and sometimes when you revisit a series that even, you know, like I said, it's not like it's my favorite series ever, stuff can feel kind of slow. But with setting up Deku and setting up this quintessential protagonist, especially in shonen manga, of I'm never going to give up. I'm born quirkless in a quirk-filled world. It's still really well done. Deku and All Might's relationship is stellar in the beginning of the series. I will say this, Bakugo definitely comes off as the stereotypical arch rival. And the thing about it is, by the end of like chapter 11, 12 and stuff, where he's just mad because Deku's like, he's like, you never told me about your powers. And Deku tries to explain, I just got these. He's like, no, I don't want to hear, listen, no, I'm gonna win. He can kind of come off as, well, I don't know. I just really, I know this is gonna. I think he's a very popular character, so I'm sorry. Maybe he gets better in that relationship, kind of expands throughout the manga, but in the beginning, he definitely just comes off as a complainer. That's why. Listen, a complainer. He is. I really did not connect with him. Like, Deku does this amazing thing where he's like, my body just moves, and he saves him. Mad about it. Deku comes up with this amazing plan, and they end up being able to touch the bomb when I think it's Ashita and Bakugo are the villains in this story. Mad about it. And there's even a little bit of history, like they used to be friends, but Bakugo comes off as like, I'm gonna be everyone's beneath me. Like I said, he definitely comes off as the Vegeta. That's my best like point of reference for it. So, like I said, maybe he advances later on in the manga, but just right now, that's how I'm feeling. And what's another shocking point is while a lot of characters that I know, because again, I've watched a little bit of it, become bigger parts, they're just kind of in the background. And does Todoroki, all right, I'm going to throw up a panel right now. I don't remember Todoroki having like that kind of is it a uniform? It just feels like there's like rocks or something on his face. It's very odd, but maybe that was in the anime as well. But either way, it is kind of fun to see just like these specks of characters. You're like, oh, he has a moment later on. Oh wait, when that moment comes, like for me, what I am incredibly excited about reading is Todoroki and Deku's fight in the spring like tournament that they have coming up. Oh, I cannot wait to reread that. Like there's a few moments that I'm very excited that are coming. But overall, in the beginning, I really enjoyed the pacing of this thing, and I'm hoping that My Hero Academia, you know when you kind of drop a series, but you're like, there's something about it. And My Hero Academia, whether it's been memed on the internet or been held in this high regard, because it's been 10 years, and to me, My Hero Academia, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this challenge, because I think I would have never read or finished My Hero Academia in anime form at all if I wouldn't have done something like this, is because you cannot say that My Hero Academia is not one of the most important manga and animes that came out in the last decade. And the reason I say that is My Hero Academia was the perfect storm. You had the Marvel superhero boom, and it got a lot of people into this medium and became fans of this stuff who have probably since then branched out and really fell in love with this thing. And I think that is so important because whether, and you see it with Dragon Ball, you see it with like the big three and all that, whether or not these things become so popular and so massive that it's kind of written off as not deep, not a good story, not good characters, just kind of, yeah, you read My Hero Academia, but are you really a manga fan? You know, when I say that, like, it kind of can come off as that because something has launched so far into this stratosphere. And that's why I wanted to do it, because I think My Hero Academia deserves the respect, because I think it is so pinnacle when you talk about gateway anime and manga, especially in the last decade. It is a very important series, and I want to see it through. And I'm hoping that what happens is that series that you put down and you came back to a few years later, you start realizing things about it, and you start seeing what fans of this series has seen from the beginning, and you come to realize what you would have missed out on if you had never came back to it. And that's what I'm hoping with this series of My Hero Academia does with me. Like I said, we are very much behind, and we need to go read some My Hero Academia because we still have a long journey ahead of us.
Okay, so I made it to chapter 22, which is the Sports Festival arc, which was one of my favorite arcs in the anime. But we just got done with the USJ Arc, which is the introduction of Shigaraki, which, if you know, I think is like maybe one of the main villains in this series. He's got the hand over his face, the hand. It's basically them breaking in and kind of trying to take out All Might by attacking his students, and it doesn't go well Because, I mean, when All Might enters the picture, when All Might enters, he's like, I am here. Oh, that panel is so good. That panel is so good. But yeah, this was a really fun little stretch of chapters. I mean, you got Ashita becoming the class president, and I think it really just builds the students' relationships. And I think that's what's really important about My Hero Academia, especially it being like a school manga or really a ensemble. Because, I mean, Deku's the main character, but the students around him, that's where the story can really shine. And Bakugo has a good moment when he tries to save Deku. Like I said, he's still very Vegeta-like. But, like, I don't know. There's something about him. Maybe he grows a little bit more. But this arc was their first real test of danger. All of these students finally got to face what these pro heroes face all the time. And kind of how they deal with that. How each student really deals with that. Todoroki shows that he is very strong, which we're about to see in the sports festival. But yeah, I mean, I still think that we're building to the main story of My Hero Academia. Because when Shigaraki loses, he's kind of talking to this TV. I don't know, I can't remember who's on the TV that he's talking to, like who's kind of pulling the strings. Somebody's pulling the strings. I cannot remember. But yeah, it is 10 o'clock. I have to wake up early for work. And I know the Sports Festival arc is a good many chapters long, but you remember 33 chapters a day. I'm on chapter 22, and it's day 2. We got this. We got this. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. It's going to work out. But yeah, I'm gonna try to read a bunch of more chapters. I will come back if I finish the Sports Festival arc at like 1 a.m. or whatever. But yeah, I can't wait to read this next arc.
Okay, so I should really be in bed right now because I have adult responsibilities and I have to get up for work tomorrow. And it might be 11 p.m. But I have to make this part because we just got done with the sports festival. Yeah, I know. That ends at chapter 44. I should be at chapter 99 with my 33 chapters a day, and it's still not looking good. I get it. But I'm really having hope for the weekend that this is when we catch up. Because I had to talk about the sports festival, and I'm so glad because this was one of my favorite arcs in the anime. I absolutely loved it when I watched it for the first time, and now reading it for the first time, I am so glad because it held up so well. From the Todoroki backstory to Deku and all of these abilities coming into play, you get great action scenes, but I'm telling you, for me, what makes this arc so good is the storytelling in it. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, right? It does what great tournament arcs in shonen manga is supposed to do. It gives you great action scenes. It actually lets you see the abilities of these characters that have been, for better or worse, background characters, on top of giving you backstory with all these things and setting up the next arc. Because, I mean, we see Stain, and then I believe Ida is his name. It's the jet guy. I'm pretty sure I called him Ashita the last 2 parts of this video. I apologize for that. But you're getting all these nuggets of information. And Bakugo is still wild, because, spoiler alerts, he wins the race. But they have to tie him up, and he, and he doesn't even want the medal. It's just in his mouth. So, you know, he's still wild. And I think I'm starting to see what Bakugo's character is supposed to be. Obviously, he is kind of the rival, but what makes it interesting and what makes this whole tournament arc really interesting is the main character that we're following is not even in the final 4, because that's not what the story that Deku needed to be told about him was. Because usually our main character, you know, at least bare minimum gets into the final match. Whether he loses that final match or not is a different thing, but he doesn't even make it the final four. And I think that was such a good pivot because it let Todoroki be this star of this arc. Because honestly, he really is. I think his backstory is so interesting, from his mother and not wanting to use this half of his father. And I am a sucker for father-son relationships in stories, and I think this with Endeavor is one of the best ones that I have read in recent memory. I just got this flashback, and then reading it, it is so well done. And can we talk about that art for a second? Look at that art. Oh, I just can't get over the fact that this tournament arc does everything that I want a tournament arc to do in Shonen. And how everything hits and everything's kind of firing on all cylinders for me. I legitimately blew through these chapters tonight. Which again is a good thing because we still have about 300 more chapters to go. So I am glad that I blew through it. But the reason I blew through it is it drags you in from the beginning where Deku blows past Todoroki and Bakugo and then gets stuck with that 10 million yen bounty for the second round all the way up until the final match. It really draws you in, and it not only builds your main character, it makes you care about the other characters. And I think for a story like this especially, because the other characters are very, very important. With My Hero Academia, legitimately the school is a core part of it. I mean, you see it in the first cover. And for us being 44 chapters in, him using this tournament arc to build out these other characters and people kind of have their moments. And not only that, to build Todoroki into this full-fledged, full-rounded character that we've hardly seen up until this point. In such a somewhat short amount of time, 20 chapters, is really incredible. I mean, yeah, of course, I could gush about the action scenes and the fights. That's not what I love about this arc. This arc, to me, is Endeavor and Todoroki, and him coming to terms with his other half, which is so good when you think about, I mean, Bakugo calls him this half and half. When you think about his power, and his power being this juxtaposition of his personal family life, legitimately ice and fire. It works so incredibly well. I mean, I can gush about it and gush about it, but you're probably looking down this video long enough as it is, and I need to get to sleep. But I am just so happy, like incredibly happy, that this arc has lived up to the expectations that I have in my memories of watching it in the anime. I cannot say enough about this tournament arc, this technically festival arc, but it's a tournament arc, you know what I mean? And man, I forgot how incredibly enthralling Todoroki is as a character, especially in this arc. Man, and that ending with him and his mother at the hospital. Oh, it's so incredibly good. But the other thing that he did, and the thing that we're about to find out, is Stain's here. And he left those little nuggets with Ida's brother getting attacked. So let's go read the Stain arc. Okay, so I just got back from work, and let me tell you, I stayed up way too late reading My Hero Academia. And going to work tired and getting through the day, especially when you want to continue to read this manga that you're really liking, is, you guys probably know this, it's tough. But I've done it. When I got home, I finished the Stain arc. And let me tell you, this arc, so for me, these two arcs, these last two arcs, have been the things I remembered the most about the anime and my time like watching My Hero Academia, and what I consider at the time, who knows, maybe later on down the road it gets better, but I kind of started falling off after this point. So this was like my peak of My Hero Academia. And I really started to understand why I think it was my peak. Because while the tournament arc that they had, I just talked about it in the video, you just saw it a few minutes ago. But I kind of forgot how much the Stain arc was impressive. Because I think it does a lot for the story of My Hero Academia. Not only does it introduce a really good villain, and you get moments with these characters finally kind of facing a villain on their own. I mean, yeah, we had the attack that happened, but this is kind of a close quarters combat with Ida, which I realized too why I called him Ashida, because I'm pretty sure in the anime his name is Ashida. I don't know why they changed it, but that is why in the beginning of this video I called him the wrong name, so I apologize for that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm probably gonna do it throughout this video even still, but I do apologize. But the Stain arc culminates with Todoroki, Deku, and Ida facing off against Stain, and I'll get that in a little bit. But watching these three face a villain that not only did the author draw him incredibly different, and I haven't talked about this yet in this video, but I do love that some characters get drawn differently. I think that really jumps out during the manga. Like the police chief gets drawn differently, All Might obviously, and Stain. Some of Stain's panels legitimately look like it's out of a horror manga, and I think that works so well, especially with the character that Stain is. And I haven't mentioned that yet, and I just want to mention that because it's right here at the tip of my brain. It really impressed me in this arc. But I think what dawned on me, reading it again after watching the anime, is that Stain is kind of the first villain that we see is capable of terrible, horrible things. Obviously, Shigaraki and all of them are definitely capable of that stuff, but we actually see Stain. He is... And you definitely see it at the end when he stands up and he keeps going at them, even though I think they said his rib punctured his lungs. But it's just this character that is so steadfast and believes in what he is willing to do. And I love his motivation too. It's this rebirthing that he has to become this terrible, horrible person to bring out the true heroes, because of this government and all these rules around heroing. It's all fake to him. These are fake heroes. They do it for the accolades. And that payoff that the accolades that Deku and all of them get, they can't tell anybody. I don't know. I just think that the story, the art, and everything hits in the Stain arc. Like, it comes full circle. Like, them facing a villain. This is all about, like, oh, heroes are fake because they just want accolades and they just want, all of this glory for themselves. And then, our heroes don't even get to be able to have the glory. I think that's such a smart writing decision. I didn't even remember that part, but when I got to it, I was like, this is such a smart writing decision. And we also get the tease at the end for One for All and All for One. We kind of get that story of these brothers, this one brother that kind of wanted to lead the revolution almost back in the times where the heroes, like they said the society, the norms of society were crumbling. And then he gives his brother this power, but come to find out, his brother already had a power and the mutation, and this is how we got the battle of One for All and All for One. And that was who was on the TV. I couldn't remember it earlier, but that was who was on the TV. And he's leading Shigaraki to the League of Villains, because we also get to see a few panels of the League of Villains that will come into play later on down the road. But just getting to see these characters kind of start their internship and be faced with this incredible foe that honestly at this point in the story is one of the most twisted people that we have seen, and they kind of learn what it will mean to be a hero, that you'll make sacrifices. Obviously we've seen a little bit of this, but it's really driven home in this arc for me that it's not about the accolades. Like, yeah, they want to tell people They want to be like, yeah, we did it. And especially because we have these moments of these three characters that obviously Ida and Deku have had moments, and Todoroki and Deku have had moments, but to have all three of these characters have this come together moment, you start to realize that this My Hero Academia, these kids are going to build these relationships into such a strong foundation for when they become heroes. And what I really like about it, there's just a little bit of like that school kid humor. You know, they're trying to do things at school because it kind of brings you back. Like, they're facing all of these incredible things, but they're just kids. And I kind of forgot how well My Hero Academia showed that in the beginning. And we get the tease at the end when All Might is telling him about one for all and all for one, that he says, kid, I'm not going to be here when you have to become that hero, when you have to face him. And we get a few more little tidbits of that they're training the new generation, you know. Gran Torino talks about, like, I really didn't want to be a teacher anyway, it was just to teach you. It's kind of that passing of the torch, which I would imagine that we get that a lot throughout this series, because that's kind of the overarching story of My Hero Academia, is these kids becoming heroes. But I think it was just a nice little nod at the end. You get a little panel of All for One, and you get those little bits of moments between Deku and All Might, kind of him being like, I'm going to have to make sure that you're good because I'm not always going to be here. So it does that perfect thing of having a really compelling villain, having really compelling stories for a few characters that really bring you in and you get to know these three. And while sprinkling a little bit of the other other classmates throughout, but it's really kind of about Ida and Deku and then Todoroki at the end, because we also get the payoff of Todoroki and his mother. Like, I totally forgot about that, and how it was kind of left, not really left hanging, like it was an okay ending, but then to get that little bit of payoff, and you get to finally see what Deku's words at the tournament means to him now. And now these three have a bond. Not only do Deku and Ida have, like a broken hand bond, and Todoroki makes the joke of, like, I'm the hand crusher. So they're building these bonds, even though in the background we're seeing the League of Villains form. I think it's just really well paced, really well told, and it's that thing of giving you a great arc while at the end giving you just enough intrigue to be interested to see where it goes. And I think that Stain arc does it so good. And reading this, like, flooding back, like, this was, again, the tournament and the Stain arc, I was like, yeah, I'm a fan of My Hero Academia. I'm very excited now. I think it's going to be a really interesting video to get to where I kind of bounced off of it and see how I react reading through it instead of watching it weekly during the anime. That's going to be really interesting, but it is fun to be back in that fan of, this is fantastic. This is how they're building this world. This is how they're building these stories. And to be at this moment right now, I'm like, man, My Hero Academia is really doing a cliched thing so well, and giving just enough spin on it to kind of make it its own. And I think you cannot ask for a better spin on this superhero genre that has been done for decades than these last two arcs. Oh, My Hero Academia. I am so on board. I am going to go eat some dinner, though, and, relax a little bit. But also, we're supposed to be at chapter 120. I'm at chapter 60. So, a little behind, but we can make it up. We'll be fine. We still got a lot of video left to do. We got this. I am going to catch up to My Hero Academia and finish it on the day that the final chapter is released. I've made it in the beginning. I'm continuing it right now. We got this. It's going to work. I hope it works. It's going to work. No, I'm back. It's going to work.
Okay, so I'm using my phone, so I apologize if the camera quality and audio quality is bad. I just got done with chapter 69, going to chapter 70. It was the end of the final exam arc. What I enjoyed about this arc, honestly, is watching the teachers fight the students. I think that was really fun, and I liked that they kind of used this handful of chapters to team up students that were a bad match for their teachers and a bad match for each other in a way. And especially Deku and Bakugo teaming up, like, I don't know, it really builds that relationship. Same with I'm sorry, it's late. It's the girl with the creation ability and Todoroki, and her coming to terms because they were both kind of entered into UA with a special recommendation, and she's kind of lost her confidence, and it helped her get her confidence back. So they did all these things while kind of framing it in this really cool way. There wasn't too much like story development. I guess the last two chapters with Shigaraki kind of interviewing Deku in the mall, which weirdly enough, I don't know if it's because it's late and I'm very tired, it made me miss malls. You know, malls used to be like, I would always hang out in a mall. I haven't been to a mall in forever. I don't have a lot of malls around me. I miss malls. That's what I'm saying. It's going off the rails. Listen, I've been reading a lot these last few days. But yeah, chapter 70, not chapter, 120, which where I need to be, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to get some sleep, get rested, because tomorrow is Friday. Friday and Saturday and Sunday are big days for me, for us, for this challenge. If you've been following it this far, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday is when I really have to, like, buckle down and get through a lot of this. Because if I don't do well this weekend, it's gonna be hard to be caught up by the time the final chapter gets released. So wish me luck. I mean, you guys already know if I did it or not, but I don't know. So maybe that's fun to watch, because I don't know. Hopefully, I'm a little nervous. But yeah, she has the right idea. You know what I mean? Look at her. Got her own little pillow. Anyway, okay, this is going off the rails. It's late. I'm tired. I'm gonna get some rest. These next 3 days, we got to get through it. All right.
Okay, so it's Saturday, the weekend, and yes, I have a lot of reading to do, so I'm going to try to make this quick, but I am probably going to ramble on for a good long time because I just got done reading all the way up until chapter 98, which is the forest incident arc. I'm gonna put it right here, the forest arc, and then the hideout, like where they attack the hideout. There's the arc names right now. Those are the arc names right now. So let me tell you my emotions reading this stuff. Literally the ending gave me goosebumps in like a weird way. You know what I mean? Because I think why we read this kind of stuff and enjoy anything is to get like an emotional response. And I don't think, at least up until this, in this journey that we've been going on for, dear Lord, probably at least 25 minutes at this point. I am so sorry for the length of this video. We still have so much more to go. Like, just strap in. There's so much more to go. But the emotional response when All Might kind of, his secret gets out and it's broadcast, and he points and he says, "It's your time now." And really the emotional response of that whole all for one for all battle. It was the best thing that I've experienced in My Hero Academia up until this point. And probably, honestly, up until my memory fades of when I kind of fell out of watching the anime. I think that it is such the culmination of All Might, which is a character that we have followed since the beginning, and it's this character in this world that is number one. He is at the pinnacle, right? And to watch his journey just not end, but change, I really have no other words except that, like, it's perfect. Legitimately, it's perfect for this story, these characters, in this thing. I can't think of something that I would be like, oh yeah, that was good, but I would change this little thing. Maybe that would make it a little better. It's perfect. But I should probably rewind, right? So the forest happens where they are going to summer camp to kind of train to be more heroes. But they get attacked and Bakugo gets taken. And the other thing that in this little group of chapters that I finally kind of get, and I kind of forgot all about Bakugo, as you've heard me talk about him throughout this video, I don't really like his characterization, is what I'm going to say. But when he's getting dragged through that portal and he says, Deku, don't rescue me, or don't follow me, or don't come for me. And then to watch him when he's captured and they're watching the news conference and his teacher stands up for him and says, you know, yeah, like, because everybody's talking about his attitude, which they did a great job, even me, like, his attitude's kind of so completely left of all of the other students, to an exaggerated degree. And to use that as a device to be like, even the people are like, oh yeah, we remember seeing him in this, you know, the spring festival tournament. We remember seeing him being so crazy, and his ambition to scream like, I'm going to be number one, he's going to flip. Like, they got him. He's going to flip to this League of Villains because this villain stuff is coming back into play. Everybody's been so relaxed, and this is why you're getting attacked so much. For his teacher to stand up and say, no, trust me, he's not going to flip. He's not even close to flipping. If the villains thought his attitude, they could easily flip him. He says something to the effect of, like, don't take his hubris or his confidence as a sign of weakness. And Bakugo sees that and he kind of breaks out. And he's like, see, they know. And I think this develops Bakugo so much in such a short amount of time, or maybe develop is the right word, but also to take this characterization of this character and to use that in a way to make this story point hit so hard is so good. And honestly, I like where they kind of leave the All Might and Bakugo relationship, because Bakugo comes to him and says, what is Deku to you? And he's like, you know, obviously All Might, whose all his secrets have been revealed, can't tell Bakugo that. And even Bakugo kind of knows. He's like, all right, fine, don't tell me. But he knows because he sees the way Deku, you know, is crying during the All for One and One for All fight. And when All Might says it's your turn, he sees that. And the author specifically puts the panel of Bakugo looking at Deku in this moment because Bakugo's always kind of known this is odd. He has not had a quirk, and then all of a sudden he has this quirk, and its quirk's obviously similar to All Might. What's going on here? So he finally kind of clicks that piece together. Because this arc definitely feels like the end of a saga. It definitely feels like this beginning saga that we've been reading is kind of done. So much so that it ends with, like, them getting dormitories. Like, it really feels like, because obviously there's arcs and things like this, but this feels like the culmination from beginning to where we are right now, almost chapter 100. This feels like the culmination. And it kind of teases you what's to come. Because All for One is, you know, blind and beaten by All Might. All Might's secret that he's been keeping since the very beginning is now out in public, and he cannot be All Might anymore. Now it is time for Deku to step up and do what he has to do to become this great hero that everyone knows that he can be. While on top of these League of Villains and Shigaraki and all that, they're still forming. They're still in the background. And the reveal that Shigaraki is the child of All Might's teacher. Like, come on, that reveal? I mean, it's doing everything that a final arc in a saga needs to do. It's giving you answers to all these things, and you kind of get to see, not all the characters, but most of the characters that kind of, I think, are front and center in this story. And I think it shows the development of these students when they save Bakugo. Because, if you look at the beginning, they always ran in and wanted to, just use their quirks and fight. It's the same thing that we saw with Stain. But this time they're like, well, let's not do that because we got warned. But let's think of another way to save Bakugo. So they find this way to save him without actually breaking the rules. On top of Bakugo has to do it because, and I like how Red Riot puts his hand out, and Deku's like, it can't be me to do that because, we have this history. And Bakugo actually, letting his friends save him. Even though technically he was like, I didn't get saved. This was just my best strategy at this point. But see, Deku had already thought about that. It's showing that they are learning, that they are growing through all of these battles and all these things that are happening. And I just can't get over this feeling of watching all of this culminate into, especially for shonen action manga, it has it all. It has all of these storylines because, even one of just like the side storylines that become kind of important towards the end, when Deku saves the kid. He then gets a letter from the kid that makes him finally feel like a hero, which he uses that moment when his mom doesn't want him to go to UA because of all of this stuff that has happened to him and the injuries that he has sustained from being there. He finally steps out of All Might's shadow and says, I don't care where I go. Because this letter finally made me feel like a hero, and I'm going to be a hero regardless. It doesn't matter where I go, I'm going to be this hero. And All Might finally just kind of dropping to his knees and saying, I want to lead this kid down a not so bloody path that I went down. And the mom coming to the realization that All Might is kind of the best person to do this, because All Might also says that he thinks Deku's going to be his successor. So having all of these pieces moving throughout these last two arcs and to culminate in this thing, I don't know, man. The climax of this saga was just, and this is going to be a wild statement, maybe. And maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree, but this just, again, my journey reading through this series. I think this is my hero at its best that I can remember. Again, I can't speak. I think if we want to do the manga with how far I watch the anime, I'm somewhere in the 150, 180 chapters, around the school festival arc. I didn't actually watch the school festival arc, if I remember correctly, but somewhere around there, the gentleman. I don't really remember much of it. And I didn't remember this. And rereading it, it kind of flashback of when I was watching it and when I was such a big fan of it. And this, to me, is what made My Hero Academia so special. And I think part of the reason, obviously it was already huge by this point, but what solidified it in kind of like this popular culture where it just exploded everywhere. Because honestly, especially in this demographic or genre of manga, which is like shonen action, it's everything you love about it. It's a character that is striving to be the best version of himself, striving for a goal that everyone thinks is out of reach, and finally coming into himself and having confidence and saying, if you think of the beginning, he needed All Might. And for him to say, I don't care where I go, doesn't matter. I'm going to achieve what I am willing into existence to achieve, what I'm putting in the work to achieve. And it is absolutely incredible. Like I said, I could ramble on about this little block of My Hero Academia, but again, the video is already long enough. But just know this, look in my face. Are you looking? I loved this. Okay, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I started getting a little nervous. If you didn't see, I was on chapter 105. It is Saturday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I know. I know. You're like, hey, man, weren't you supposed to, like, really read a lot? Here's the thing. You know how it is. When you read manga and just life happens, stuff happens, you can't sometimes devote a lot of time to doing what you really want to be doing. That's just life, you know what I mean? A little life lesson, you know? The more you know. But I started doing something, right? I'm not going to lie to you. This is very technical, but I thought maybe you'd like to see. I started to time my chapter read-throughs. Yeah, those are my laps. Yeah, So, like I said, I really wanted to do this, and I still think it's possible. So, if I keep that lap time, which it averaged out to about 5.5 minutes per chapter, technically, I would only have to read 3.5 hours a day until Saturday. Perfect time because the last chapter comes out on Sunday. Here's the other thing that I kind of forgot. It's very important. I'm surprised that I forgot it. I have to edit this video. Yeah. And if you've never edited a video, let me tell you, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to edit videos, especially when you use manga panels. You want them to kind of move. I want to keep you guys interested with watching my stuff. So, it takes a little bit of time. So, I'm going to have to read more than 3.5 hours every day, which is okay for today and Sunday, but work starts again on Monday. That's when it's going to get real interesting. So, yeah, just a little mid-video update. I am in trouble. Alright, hopefully you're enjoying the video, you know what I mean? Hopefully this is fun, because it's kind of fun to do. I don't know, I kind of like this pressure. And it's so funny, it's My Hero Academia, because it's kind of like, I gotta dig within myself, and gotta find my own quirk to read manga really, really fast, but not too fast to where you're still not enjoying the story. That's the thing. That's why I kind of always hesitate doing these kind of videos, because I don't want to just be reading and blowing through manga without actually kind of ingesting the story and like the artwork. Also, the artwork because the schools are fighting right now for the exam. Really impressive. Like, really good artwork. That's been one of my main things. I'm pretty impressed with the artwork of My Hero Academia, because again, you've heard about My Hero Academia, but I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the artwork. Some panels are really, really good. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble anymore. Back to reading manga. We are on a time crunch now. Very cool. All right. Goodbye. Cut it to me. Reading manga. Go ahead. Cut it. Reading manga. Here we go. Okay, so I just got done reading the provisional license exam. Here's the thing. Alright, so this goes up to chapter 121. While I did enjoy the downtime that we got with these characters, and some characters that have not gotten a chance to shined a little bit in this arc, it was basically about taking this exam, getting your provisional license, and while some of the battles were fun, I think it's just coming off of that peak hype that was with All Might retiring and all of those things. It was just a cool down period, is what I'll say. But I'm still thinking about All Might retiring. It's your turn now. Oh, all that stuff. But I will say there were two kind of chapters that I really enjoyed. One was with Double, I believe his name is. He's the villain that kind of copy himself. I really liked how it goes into his story that he made so many copies that he doesn't even know who he himself is. Like, that was a really interesting way to take that character. And then the second part, obviously, is Deku versus Bakugo. I mean, come on. While again, I've been very vocal about Bakugo maybe not being one of my favorite characters in My Hero Academia, but he is growing so much. He's growing so much, and now he is the only other student that knows Deku's secret. I mean, it's just like All Might said. They are true rivals now. They kind of know about each other, and Bakugo you find out that he's been carrying this weight, that he feels responsible for All Might having to retire because he wasn't strong enough. And it's one of those things that I think shown in action, when it does it right, it does it incredibly well. And My Hero Academia has done it a few times, but this is one of those times where you tell a story through the action, through the battles, through the fights. And we got to learn kind of their relationship by them fighting. And I just think it was so well done. But like I said, this was just one of those arcs that I feel like is setting up things to come. And while it had some good fights and some good moments with some characters, I still can't get over what we just, literally, I just read earlier today. So let's go read some more My Hero Academia.
Okay, where to start? Where to start? I just got done with the Overhaul and Eri Arc. I'm going to put the actual name right here, but I'm just going to call it the Overhaul and Eri Arc. You get it. You know what I'm talking about. Where to start? This ends at chapter 162. I think it's around 40 chapters? I don't remember. I'll put that right there on the screen as well. Whew, man, let me tell you, dude. So we are kind of introduced to like the big three of UA, and those big three are kind of like the cream of the crop of UA. And they become, well, two of them really play a huge part, in my opinion, of this arc that we're reading. Because Morio, for sure, we'll get to it, you know, but what a hero. Let's just say that right off the bat. Look, that guy? The definition of a hero. Also, Sun Eater. Listen, I really like Sun Eater. I really like his power. Whatever he eats, he can, like, use. That is so cool to me. I also kind of like the juxtaposition of him kind of having no self-confidence and Morio, or Lemillion, having, like, this big boast of confidence. But as we learn throughout the arc, that wasn't always the case. And I just really liked their inclusion in this arc. I also really liked Red Riot in this arc. Red Riot, he gets his moment to shine like a bright star. Red Riot. I mean, especially for a character like, you know, even in like the tournament arcs, he's put up against a guy that has his very similar powers, and he kind of is this comic relief character. And they delved so deep into his backstory and the reason that he became how he became. And what I also liked is they added that he knew, I believe it's Minna, she shoots acid. They have kind of a history of going to school together. And I think that's such a cool thing where they can integrate these students that we've kind of seen in backgrounds, and they have history with each other. It just really helps build the world and characters out of My Hero Academia. So that was really cool. But also just him taking these punches and the art when he's taking these hits and taking these punches, and he really comes into his own with a little bit of this arc, kind of him having that shining moment. And man, I just really like that character. I really like that character. They did a great job of making you care about him and understand him so much more in kind of a short period of time. I believe his little mini arc was like 4 chapters in this saga, and they just, so incredibly well done. He is definitely a character that I want to, and hopefully we do, see more of in the future, because Red Riot, like, he really did, like, if I was doing tier list of characters up until this point, because we're pretty much at the point where I don't really know what's going on, and if I'm honest with you, I have forgotten most of this because I watched it as it was being released, so it's been years at this point. So honestly, I really haven't known what's going on. I knew the bare minimum going into this thing. So it's also exciting to kind of get through the last big arc that I kind of remember bits and pieces of, and now it's kind of almost brand new. But just, if I was tier listing characters, Red Riot shoots way up in the tier list. But also, I would be remiss, Sun Eater is another one. I love that he can eat stuff and become things, and he kind of has he's in the background, but it comes to light, and he kind of has this moment where he's fighting these three bad guys, and really the whole underground bunker section of this arc was so good, and how the villains were like using their powers to manipulate the actual environment and stopping, the heroes from getting to where they need to go to rescue Eri. When they got to the underground section, it really amped up for me. Like, this arc was fine up until this point. Like, the Eri thing, they kind of run into Eri, and Deku wants to save her, and they kind of let her go with Overhaul, and kind of the setup was fine. But really, when they got to this underground bunker, like, it started amping up and amping up. And I actually really liked, and I think this is the first time they've done it in My Hero Academia, that I can remember, even though I've only been reading for the last few days, but like that I can remember, is they played with time really interesting. So instead of really being singular, like time was a straight line, they would do these things where they would go to different chapters and be like 2 minutes before this, or 3 minutes before this, or this was happening as this thing was happening. And I really liked that structure of this arc, like playing with time. And again, I think like the underground bunker and the police and heroes and everyone was kind of split up doing their own thing. So it worked really well. Of you can have a handful of chapters of this one thing, go back 3 minutes, and like at the end of that first section, you saw Deku break through the wall. All right, now let's take 2 chapters and be like, how did he break through that wall? And I don't know, that was really fun. Really, really, I feel like I've just been saying really, 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 really a lot in this part of the video, but I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't stop. This is forever. I'm sorry that you're going to have to deal with this section of me just being really, really excited. But I would say the meat and potatoes of this arc was Overhaul and his kind of vision that he wanted to take away quirks, and using Eri by like doing a lot. Let's be honest with you. Doing a lot of horrible stuff to this child. I'm going to be honest with you that, but he finally perfected it and could take away quirks from people. And boy, does he take away quirks from people. I literally just got done reading it, and I'm still not over it, because Lemillion just wanted to be a hero, and he still believes that he's going to be a hero, and I believe he's going to be a hero because he's already a hero. You know what I mean? Just by his actions, because even with his quirk gone, he sacrificed his entire body, his entire existence to protect Eri, and that fight with Overhaul was just one of the best. Not the best fight, we'll get to that, but not the best fight, but one of the best of just watching Lemillion and this character that throughout this arc people said that he should have been inheriting All Might's ability. And you kind of see why, because he definitely has that All Might thing about him. He's kind of goofy and silly and, goes in with a smile. But when it gets serious, he gets serious. And that was just really, he was a great character. He was a really great character. He's still around, but one character not so lucky. Let's just talk about it now. Let's just talk about it now. Night Eye. Legend. His quirk was that he could kind of see into the future. He was a sidekick to All Might, and there was a falling out. And he was kind of at the center of the plan to rescue Eri. And while he came off very stern throughout this arc, it was done to great effect of building out this character and understanding Night Eye. And honestly, he became a great character in this arc. A great character in My Hero Academia. And boy, did he suffer the consequences. I think this is also one of the first times in My Hero Academia that while he's not part of the main cast, he was a very central character, and he didn't make it. And that scene where he did not make it, I'll just put the panels on screen now. I'm gonna let some sad music play over it, so just take this in. Remember this. And watching All Might try to make up for and watch his friend not make it, heartbreaking, man. Like, it's a very somber way to end this arc. Not only have the League of Villains, and they had bits and pieces throughout this arc. I think Toga and Twice had, some of the biggest influences. Toga kind of took over Deku and told them about Eri and the fight so they could actually save Deku. She's actually the reason that Deku, honestly, is probably still here and didn't get rewound so far back out of, existence because of Eri's power, which I don't know if I just didn't grasp why she would do that. Well, I know why she would do that, because their whole plan this entire time, Shigaraki kind of was pulling the strings and had them to go into the Yakuza to basically take them out from within, and their plan was to get them to fight, so whoever was victorious, if they, in a perfect world, they take out each other, League of Villains, free to roam. But obviously, the heroes win, but Shigaraki also doesn't end this arc without getting his. He ends up cutting Overhaul's hands off, taking away his quirk, and exploding a van. Once again, I'm pretty sure this is one of the only parts of My Hero Academia up until this point that people don't make it. The main villain and, in my opinion, a main side character of this arc are no longer here with us by the end of this. And I feel like the stakes are getting raised. That's the thing. And it's really fun to see in this manga that can be so kind of lighthearted and superhero-y, and it feels like the stakes have never been super high up until this point. But to watch characters actually not make it, it brings the stakes up in My Hero Academia and makes it very interesting to watch because, oh, we got Recovery Girl. She'll recover everything. Didn't work for Night Eye. So it's fun to see them raising the stakes in this series, because then you start looking around at all these characters and says, truthfully, within reason, anyone's fair game. And while you might not want to see characters go, as a reader, I think, I can only speak for myself, it makes me want to read more of it because anything's pretty much on the table. And I guess one of the final things that I have to talk about, because I need to talk about it because this fight was incredible. Not only that, this artwork? Are you kidding me? I think that's been one of the biggest surprises throughout doing this little challenge is the artwork in My Hero Academia, because as you know the name My Hero Academia, but at least the parts of the internet that I kind of scour, not many people talk about the art in My Hero Academia. The author has this kind of go-to where the character is almost reaching out of the page, and he does it a handful of times in this battle, and it works every time. It looks amazing every time. But definitely the best battle and the most intense battle was Deku versus Overhaul. One, Overhaul can merge with people because his whole power is basically deconstruction and reconstruction, and he merged with one of his henchmen and he becomes this just monster of a thing. And Deku has Eri on her back, who is constantly rewinding his injuries, so he has to break his bones faster than she can rewind it so that he doesn't rewind into non-existence. It is fun. It is so fun. One, the artwork is amazing. One, the battle is amazing. And as someone that's been reading this series, to watch Deku go 100% when he's barely been going 5%, you understand what he's capable of. I mean, we've seen it a little bit throughout up until this point, but to watch him go 100% and to watch him break through so much so that Night Eye said, you're not going to make it. And the future that I see always comes to pass. And he says, I'm punching through that future. And he punches through that future. He punches through that future. Shout out to their teacher, Eraserhead. He is the unsung hero. He's actually the reason that Deku kind of makes it. And he's been really evolving even with his students. If you take when they first meet him to now, and even characters in the world are saying this, like, he respects his students, he sees potential in his students. Again, this was one of the first class that he never failed anybody, and he is an unsung hero throughout this entire series up until this point. I don't know what they do with him later. Obviously, like I said, we're getting to unknown territory for me, but Eraserhead is stellar. But I did think it was funny. After all of this, they're like, all right, well, we're going back to school now. I'm going to be honest with you. If I was the principal, a lot of these kids have done enough. Just give them their diploma. Just let them graduate at this point. If I'm going to be honest with you, just let them go. Hey, you did enough. You're good. Hey, real world experience. Go ahead, diploma, graduate, become a hero. Like, I thought that was really jarring for me. Like, you're going to this high stakes thing. You know, people have passed away for the first time. All right, school starts soon. See you there. What? But that's kind of where we leave them. Shigaraki and the League of Villains are kind of rebuilding in the shadows. Deku and everyone's going back to school. The Million still does not have his quirk back, but he's thinking about, hopefully, if Eri can control her quirk, maybe he can rewind it to get his back. If not, he's going to find another way, because he's got to be a great hero, because that's what Night Eye told him at the end, that you will be a great hero. And who wants to let that man down? You know, who? I wouldn't. I was like, yeah, man, whatever Night Eye said, by the end of it, I was like, yeah, you got it. So yeah, like I said, we're getting to unknown territory for me. So I don't know. Let's go read some more My Hero Academia. So I remembered why I stopped watching the anime. Okay, I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can be. I was incredibly disappointed by these last two arcs. The Provisional License Arc, where Todoroki and Bakugo get their license, kind of go to their little summer school thing, and the School Festival / Gentle Criminal Arc. I'm not going to spend much time on this section, because I don't really know what to say about it, other than I started reading manga and stuff, and you've probably realized this too if you watched anime and then read manga. The filler arcs were not really existent in manga. There are still some here and there, but honestly, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people, especially with shonen action, start reading the manga is it just feels better paced. And you don't have to deal with sometimes the filler episodes. Listen, don't get me wrong. Goku and Piccolo getting their driver's license, one of the best filler episodes in an anime I have ever watched, ever. But overall, the filler kind of just seems tough, and the reason that it kind of exists is either it catches up with the manga, and you know, there's reasons that filler exists, and I understand that. But in manga, it's just so odd, and maybe I'm hoping, because I'm on this journey now and I'll see it through, that maybe something that I missed in these two arcs comes back in a big bad way later on. And, you know, everything will click, and so I'll think back to these arcs and be like, oh, this is kind of what they were setting up. But right now, it truthfully felt like it was about 22 chapters of not much. I will say in the Provisional License Arc, what I really enjoyed was Endeavor. I really liked, you know, his conversation with All Might, and his with Todoroki being like, I want to be a father and a hero that you can be proud of. I really like that character development, because he's realizing that he's the #1 hero, and crime is kind of going back up, and what made All Might that pillar. And I really enjoyed that aspect of like him kind of being introspective and trying to figure it out. But that's about it. And honestly, the Gentle Criminal Arc and the School Festival Arc, Deku got some gloves to help him go 20 and 30%. And that's about it. I I just think that the villain, even if it was filler, and again, it might not be, but it felt like it. Boy, did it feel like hitting a brick wall. Because even Gentle Criminal himself wasn't even like a great villain to me. And La Brevia, his little sidekick, that's stuff. No. Just no. Just no. Okay? Listen. I apologize, and let's talk in the comments if you really enjoy these like last two arcs, and maybe I didn't see something, you know what I mean, maybe I just skipped over something, but it just felt not great. I'm not gonna say bad, I'm not gonna say terrible, I'm not gonna say those words, I'm just going to say not great. But we're on a mission to finish My Hero Academia before the last chapter gets released, so I'm not going to spend much more time on this stuff. Like I said, I just want to enjoy these things, and I don't like talking bad about stuff, personally. All I can say is it wasn't for me, and I didn't enjoy it. So, alright, let's go read some more My Hero Academia. But I'll tell you this, one more thing. Again, I'm not going to talk bad about it. I'm not going to talk bad about it, just one more thing, though. One more thing. I think the reason that it hit me so hard is we just got off of an arc with like Eri, Overhaul, all of these things kind of coming together, the League of Villains, like all this stuff is building up, and then, here we are. So, anyway, alright, back to it, sorry. Okay, alright, we are back, because that next arc, let me tell you, the Endeavor arc is what I'll call it, right? I loved these last few chapters about Endeavor and him kind of almost accepting that he is the number one hero now. Especially coming from after what, hey, listen, you just saw my thoughts on the last handful of chapters. But I would read a whole series about the Todoroki family. It is such an interesting family dynamic, especially in this manga, because we don't really see it a lot. I'm becoming a huge fan of Endeavor. Like, the author's doing such a great job of making that character go from like this intimidating thing that we met him in the beginning to, I don't know, he's a really deep character to me. Like, he's got a lot going on. I also love that after this big battle with the Nomu, that have a bunch of different quirks, he now has a scar on his face. Like Shoto. Yeah, you see what they did there? They both have scars now. Yeah, I love that. I loved it so much. But yeah, we got a lot of interesting stuff going on. The Nomu stuff. Endeavor has this really incredible battle and says the plus ultra thing. He even says, like, I hate this saying, but he says it anyway. That battle was so good. With Hawks helping them, they're kind of having a team up. I went through so many emotions in like 2 pages because Hawks meets Dabi, and you're like, I just met this guy. I like him. He's very like kind of charismatic. He's a bad guy. He's a turncoat, but no. He's a turncoat on the turncoat, which I thought was really cool. And then obviously Endeavor and him kind of figuring out what it's going to mean to be the number one hero, and kind of more about repairing his family that he has done irreparable damage to. So like I said, I think there's a lot of stories to tell with that family. And then the last 2 little chapters of this arc, Deku has a conversation with like the first one for all. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like there have been little hints, like even during the festival tournament, you saw like the opening with a bunch of those faces, and it looks like he can. Again, I'm gonna say this with a question: communicate? Question mark.
So I don't know. We got a lot of interesting stuff, I think, going ahead, and it feels really good. Again, especially going from the last two little arcs that didn't really have much to do with what was going on with the main story after Overhaul, and then just to get thrust into this thing. And I'm really glad we're back. We're back. We're back in the right direction, in my opinion. But yeah, so, alright. I gotta get back to reading more My Hero Academia. It's Monday, and I have way too many chapters to read by Sunday. So, and putting this video together. So, it's gonna be another late night, but yeah, let's read some more My Hero Academia.
Right, it's late, but I'm going to read a little bit more, but I got to chapter 217, which is kind of the end of Class A versus Class B, that arc. I will say two things. One, my electricity went out during it. It's back on now, just got back on, but I really enjoyed the Class A versus Class B arc. It was kind of fun to see these quirks that we either haven't seen before or haven't seen a lot of, and kind of watch how these characters have grown. And not just our main characters, a lot of the other characters in the class have also grown a lot, and we got to see that. But I will say the few standout things was, one, Deku's quirk is evolving, I guess is the right word to say. I mean, seriously, like, when he freaked out, and then Araka, is that her name? The Gravity Girl. I was going to say put it in the comments below, but by the time this video comes out, it'll be done. You can still put it in the comments below, but I apologize if I pronounce anybody's name wrong in this video. I'm sorry. But she hopped up and saved him and got Shinzo to brainwash him, and it kind of, like, snapped him out of it. But is he gonna start, like, kind of going a little crazy? I don't know. Like, they're setting up some stuff. The other thing that they set up that I have really enjoyed, if you go back to the beginning of this video, Bakugo, I was like, maybe not, you know? He's very Vegeta. While he's still very much Vegeta, I do like that he is now part of the group. He's part of the club of All Might and Deku. Like, they're sitting in All Might's office, and he's like, this is where you guys meet? And he immediately just kind of jumps in. Like, he's not really asking questions. He's fighting with Deku to bring out this new energy. Like, he's just fully on board. Even Todoroki, it's like, oh, I didn't know you had two quirks. And then Deku's like, no, I only have one. And there's just a panel of Baku sitting there like, half and half is sharp, but kind of dumb as a brick as well. So it's really cool that he knows, and he's like the only student to know. And I really like the evolution of their relationship. The other relationship that I really like the evolution of, speaking of half and half, Todoroki. He wants Endeavor to help him with his evolution of his fire side, which he kind of let it show a little bit in the Class A versus Class B. And I really thought it was very funny that the text on the phone screen was Endeavor being like, Shoto, how are you? Waiting for a reply. I don't know. I really thought that was funny. Like, Endeavor texting him and being like, please respond. Please respond. And I really liked that the teacher, Eraserhead, was teaching Shinzo. And I'm wondering if he's like the only one that can teach him, because his powers like dulls out Shinzo's brainwashing power. So he's kind of like the only one capable of like training him, which would make a lot of sense because of the nullification that his power works. But yeah, I just really like Shinzo as well. Like, just kind of the little bit of backstory. We also get a little bit of backstory of Uraka, and talking about how she just wants to make people smile. So yeah, we're learning a little bit about the characters. Nothing super crazy happened this arc. It was honestly just kind of a fun arc, showing off how our characters have grown, and just kind of fun quirk battle powers with a lot of characters that maybe don't get their time to shine. But yeah, we're at chapter 217. We have only over halfway done. We only have 213 chapters left. We have a chance. There's still a lot to be done, but we have a chance. But yeah, let's go read some more My Hero Academia.
That is how you do a villain arc. That is how you do a villain arc. So I just got done reading My Villain Academia. And that is where the League of Villains, who we've kind of somewhat been familiar with and following throughout this series, they become front and center. Okay, here's the thing. Usually in shonen anime and manga and stuff, it feels like each arc kind of has its big bad. Some have done overarching villains or people doing stuff in the shadows, but with My Hero Academia, you know, we do have in the shadows, All For One is kind of the overarching bad guy. But Shigaraki and the League of Villains have pretty much been the villains, and this arc puts them front and center. And I think it was great. I think Twice has become an incredible character, especially with like his split personalities and not even knowing if he was the real person, and then being able to make basically a billion of himself and just come into his own to save Toga. And it kind of gives these villains a friendship in a strange way. And I haven't seen that too often, where, you know, the villains are kind of looking out for each other, or at least Twice is looking out for his fellow villains because he is excited to be welcomed into their fold. And I thought that was fantastic. Toga and her backstory of why she became like a vampire, and then she got a power. Like, they all ended up getting power-ups too, which was nice. So Toga can actually use the quirk of the person that she is becoming. Twice, again, can make tons of copies of himself, and kind of he centered himself, kind of. But come on, the star, the main guy. We get Shigaraki's backstory. Come a little closer. They had to do the dog like that. I'm not even going to show the panel. Listen, you're just going to lock in with me. We're doing the dog like that. If you know, you know. Also, you should know if you're watching this video, because I'm not putting spoiler. Listen, you should know. It's just spoilers. They had to do his dog like that? That ruined me. Man, that ruined me. Well, and then obviously he took out his whole family too, and just that backstory of him wanting to be a hero, and then his father kind of being somewhat abusive. Somewhat. I'm trying to sugarcoat. Somewhat. He was. Because his grandmother was, you know, the successor of One for All. Just basically seeing, he was kind of like Deku in a way. Follow me. Hold on. I'm telling you. Because he had no quirk, or it hadn't manifested, and he just really wanted to be a hero. Like, even one of the panels was talking about, he was playing with two kids that didn't have any friends. He was legitimately okay. He just wanted for his family to say, like, it's okay. And to see his upbringing having that effect and making him become who he became, and honestly unlocked his quirk. And the hands, to find out that the hands were his family members. I don't think they were his actual family members. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but basically made to represent his family members, to keep him in check. His backstory, honestly, and it might just be me, kind of makes him sympathetic. And I think that's a sign of a great villain, if you can kind of find some sympathy, right? Because they say the best villains, the best written villains, are the villains that are the heroes of their stories. And I think it sells it even more if us as readers can kind of see where they're coming from with it. And I think you can definitely see it with Shigaraki. And to find out One for All that's his last name, because he basically made him be reborn into the person that we are introduced to early on in My Hero Academia. I loved it. Man. I really liked this whole arc was well done. Like the characters were well written, and it makes you like the villains, and I think that's fantastic for any story to make you like the villains. But just those last handful of chapters with Shigaraki, and basically he takes over the liberation thing that was fighting them in this town. And now even Hawks, I do like how they added at the very end that he was kind of still sneaking around. He says it himself. Shigaraki has gained enough power and enough people and enough money to do whatever he wants now, even with a world full of heroes. So he's on a next level. Not only did he kind of have an awakening in the battle, now he's funded. Now he's got people to follow him. He is building this army. I don't love the name of it. What was it? It's like Paranormal Liberation Group or something like that. I don't love that name. League of Villains, way better. League of Villains. But yeah, I cannot wait to see the clash of the heroes from Class 1A and Shigaraki and the League of Villains. Like, that clash is going to be, it's going to be something else. Yeah, we're slowly making our way, you know? We're making our way. We're doing it. But yeah, after some lackluster, I really like the Endeavor stuff, but after some lackluster arcs, it was kind of nice to have like a really solid one, in my opinion. But yeah. All right, as you know, that is chapter 240 out of 430. We still have a ways to go.
I am sorry. What? Okay, all right, hey, whoa, hey, here we are. What? So, the Paranormal Liberation War Arc. What? Are you kidding me? This arc is the first arc in this manga where I started late last night and just finished it when I got home from work today. And I stayed up way too late. Just actively ruining today for me because I am so tired. Because it was just, like they say, a page turner. I could not find a good stopping point. I would be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna read up to this chapter, and then I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna, go to sleep, start again, and then something would happen. What would happen, you might add? Well, let's talk about it. So for a quick, kind of overview, because there was a lot going on, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about my favorite moments, and but here's just a quick overview. It was kind of the culmination, it felt like to me, of the My Villain Academia and Shigaraki and All for One, One for All. They finally kind of started facing off. Obviously, we have the final arc it says it's going to begin. So we're getting close. We're so close. One for All was trying to revive Shigaraki. And it kind of works, but he kind of starts taking over his body. And they meet, they destroy this town because it is all the heroes versus all these villains that we have met so far, whether it be from the League of Villains or the Paranormal Society. Everyone is battling everyone, and it is an all-out war. I mean, it's called the Paranormal Liberation War, and it kind of lives up to that title for me. And I was not expecting so many what moments in this. Just to name a handful that really stood out to me and has stuck in my brain. One, I would like to formally We're, getting close towards the end, but I would like to formally apologize. Bakugo. Hey, whoa, hey man, listen. I was wrong. I can admit that. Listen, especially if you've made it this far to the video, listen, I am wrong. I was wrong. Wrong. Just being able to watch Deku and Bakugo's younger days and to watch Bakugo kind of save Deku, and you start to realize that he really cares for the dude. And I just wasn't expecting it, I think. And don't get me wrong, I love the fact that the panel says, I don't know what happened, my body just moved. Like in the very beginning, when Deku says the same thing when he saves Bakugo. And I'm going to be honest with you, I thought it was it. I was like, man, this is going to be a powerful moment if it's over for Bakugo. Saving Deku like this, because he kind of gets jammed in the stomach, and he really is down for the count. Another thing, and there was like a little bit of an arc before this arc that kind of combined it, but it kind of really culminated, and there's still more to go. But the Todoroki family is... I love the Todoroki family. I love them. I love their story. I love their drama. I love that Dabi is his son, his firstborn son. Let me repeat that. Dabi, this guy, is this guy's firstborn son. Was so good. It was so good. Especially that little small chapter where it was built up where Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki go with Endeavor to the Todoroki family's house to have a family dinner. And then Endeavor's other son gets kidnapped by a villain, and Endeavor can't respond to it. He kind of freezes, and then Shoto and Deku and all of them are the ones that save his son. And then he freezes again with Dabi. And I have just loved, cannot reiterate how much I've loved Endeavor's character build out. He is legitimately, for me, up there with the top 5 characters that I want to follow in this story. I think this idea of this number 2 hero that was so obsessed with being number 1 that obviously he, it wasn't right, but he took it out like on his family and everyone around him. And to watch, because we actually got to watch, if you think about Endeavor's story arc, we got to watch his transformation and his recognition of his past and him trying to build or get back his family, even so much so that he's building them their house and he's going to stay in their other house because he understands, watching him understand his past mistakes and his past problems and watching his family's reactions to this growth, I can't express to you how incredibly enthralling that is to witness and read. And I was not expecting Endeavor to be this character that I just, again, easily top 5, if not top 3, if not sometimes top number 1. I want to know what's going on with the Todoroki family. And then to add this turn, this turn, it is definitely a turn, of Dabi being his son that everyone thought had passed away. And in turn, Dabi releasing this information out for everyone to know, and then he has no choice but to reflect on everything. And then we learn about what drove Toya to become Dabi. We learn that. And how Todoroki also comes to terms with, he was kind of like me with this held hatred of his father. Dude. I can't tell you enough how much I love that story beat in this arc. Man. But that's not all, okay? That's not all the what moments. Hawks, his whole trajectory of, you thought he was bad, but then he immediately turns and he's working for the good people, and then you find out his history and his parental issues that transpired and his trauma that he has gone through and how he has an Endeavor toy and now he works with Endeavor and Ha. Ugh. I need to calm down. I feel like my face is getting red. But come on. Come on, dude. And you know, he has to make the decision to take out Twice with Dobby there and everything. And let's not get started, but let's get started because that's why you're watching this video. Twice. He might be top 3 like most heartbreaking characters. I'll tell you why I think that is. I think the My Villain Academia did a great job of showing his mental instability and all of these things, and coming to find out that he just wanted to have friends and he just wanted to belong. And when he runs to Toga, he is a heartbreaking character, and he was fantastic. And I think his characterization was incredible. And I thought his story arc and even the ending that I really liked that, you know, Hawks had to do that. And also the kind of the blowback that he gets from that, because honestly it makes sense, right? Like Twice became super powerful, especially when he locked in and was able to make, you know, the sad man's paradise. When he was able to lock in and do that, he was almost unstoppable. So you understand why Hawks has to do it, and it's not on Hawks, but to watch that blowback that Hawks is now receiving of, you killed a villain, you took it to that level. It just works on all fronts, and it was so fun to read. It was so fun to read that interaction. And obviously we'll get to Deku and Shigaraki here at the end, because I think their stuff is obviously going to propel the story forward. But what I also liked about this war arc, and that can be tough to do, especially for a series like My Hero Academia that has so many students that we followed for so long. I mean, we're over 300 chapters in at this point, and some of them still got a chance to shine. While not all of them, I do think he got a little bit of time, but Ida, he's really been pushed to the back. He was really up front in the beginning of this series. He has really been pushed to the back after the brother and the Stain arc, and that's kind of sad to see. Same with Uravity. I mean, obviously she has the meeting with Toga, and then Toga has the All Might keychain, and they're building her and Deku's relationship up, and that'll probably get paid off down the line, I would imagine. But besides those characters getting pushed to the side, which I'm okay with because it lets these other students that really haven't had stuff dedicated to them get a chance to shine. There was one that's been dedicated, but they can keep dedicating it because Red Riot. Let me say it one more time for that guy back there. If you're watching you right back there, Red Riot. What an incredible moment. He had in the Overhaul arc, and he has it again where he's trying to beat the gigantic humanoid villain, and to save, which I still think there is a secret relationship between him and, oh, I'm gonna get so much hate in the comments, but I apologize. The acid, the girl he went to high school with, I can't think of her name right off the top of my head. Leave it in the comments. I appreciate you. Thank you for understanding. There's a lot. This was like 80 chapters. This was a lot to keep up, but I like their relationship and that he saved her. And I do like that his buddy, the Steel, they've been teammates, you know, this whole time, and he saved her, and they're running through this fire. And he's the one that gets the sedative into the mouth to kind of, over time, will stop him. That Create made, and I like how she got the time to shine. As you know, Midnight unfortunately didn't make it, but gave Create that thing, because the little bit of story that we've gotten of Create and her was she lacked the confidence, and Midnight gave her that confidence. And then unfortunately Midnight didn't make it through this war, and that was a touching moment, but giving her the comment of saying, I trust you, and she create the sedative and give it to all these students as they try to sedate this giant monster that is wreaking havoc throughout the entire town. I thought that was fantastic. Also, Earphone Jack and Electric Guy had his moment to shine. He's kind of always been kind of goofy, and she can hear him through the ground, because one of the heroes says, think about who you care about, and she said, go get him. And he sucked up the electricity and did his moment, because he didn't want to be stuck in the front while everyone else was in the back, but he had his moment to shine. Ugh. I'm sweating. Man, what an incredible war arc that this was for this series. Feels like only yesterday we were reading about a school festival. The school festival. We just won't talk about it anymore. You can go back. If you skip to this part, don't go back. Listen, don't worry about it. Not only that, Lemillion's back. Eri was able to undo all of this stuff, and the way he pops up and come on. I mean, all of these characters, I just think that it was so fun. It was so action-packed. It just kept going and going and going and going. And then Deku and Shigaraki faced off with Endeavor and Todoroki and Bakugo helping, but it was more about one for all versus all for one. And seeing this battle and seeing this awakening that Shigaraki kind of had, where he is nothing but destruction. But, you know, if you remember his backstory, he didn't always want to be destruction. And Deku sees that because he even says, and he gets a little hate from inside of himself. He says, I saw it in your eyes. You wanted to be saved. And I do think that Deku is going to go on a mission to save him. And I think that's going to be really, really interesting to see. But to watch Shigaraki go in and out of control of his own body and to finally kind of watch that body get taken over, so much so that he goes and breaks out a bunch of criminals. The muscle-bound guy is broken out, and there's a ton of criminals now broken out. And to watch all of this destruction and to watch the people stop really trusting heroes. And I love that aspect that they use this war, because if you really think about it, when we started this series, it was almost a time of peace, you know, with All Might there, no villain kind of dared touch it. But now there's this giant war, so much so that heroes are deciding not to be heroes anymore. I'm done. Hey, whoa. I'm out of here. It's too much for me. I gotta find a different job. So to watch these villains, even though I couldn't say who won or lost, but they achieved what they wanted to achieve to a degree, because they got the people doubting the heroes. And now everyone's asking, you know, Endeavor especially, what are you going to do? How are you going to fix this? And that faith in heroes is slowly going away. So much so, like I said, Hawks gets some blowback. Best Genius is still alive. And, you know, they know that Endeavor did the stuff with Toya to make him into Dabi. You know, this is the first time. It's not really a time of peace. This is a time of war. And I think that steady incline that this arc did to make it into the climax of, you know, Deku and Shigaraki facing off, and even the fallout, like, it's all really well put together to lead into the final act. Because now everyone from Class 1A knows Deku got his powers from All Might. Deku has left UA, and he's out there by himself. And he even had a conversation with the predecessors about this quirk and how, to be honest, he might be the final one, because people without quirks are less and less likely in this world. And how they realized with All Might, if you don't have a quirk, you can actually kind of make it your own. And all of these people, even though they died in battle, one of them had it for the longest at age 40, but it ended up killing him. Also, there's two that are kind of facing against the wall. We don't really know, because Deku's slowly getting all of these people's powers, and he's kind of making it into his own, which I really think it's a cool thing that Deku, who was quirkless, is now kind of this vessel for all of these quirks. So much so that if he ever had a quirk, it would be worse for him. So he was chosen. Obviously, that has been done and shown and stuff before, but I think the reveal and everything was executed very, very well here. And to see him standing and looking out over the city and still saying that he's going to save that kid, which he means Shigaraki, and he's doing it alone. I'm very excited to see where the next arc begins. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved every chapter of it. I loved every twist and turn and surprise and story beat and action. It is right now my favorite arc in My Hero Academia. Easily. But I don't want to ramble on too long because we still have over 100 chapters to get through. And just to let you know, it's Friday. This video is supposed to come out in 2 days. Ask me, how much have I edited? Not much. Not much. So I apologize if this is not Sunday and you're watching this. If this is Monday or Tuesday, understand this was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. But thanks for hanging out with me and thanks for sticking with me through all this. And hopefully you're enjoying the video because this somehow went from just reading a series that I have been vocal about not liking, and it's been really fun to do. And I'm really glad I went back to this series. And I can't wait to see how it ends. So, all right, enough of me talking. Let's cut to me reading some manga and then talking some more. So, all right.
So I just got done with the Dark Hero arc. It's the arc where Deku kind of goes at it alone because he wants to protect everyone and he needs to be separated from everyone. And boy, does he go dark. They even mention it that he's not even drawn the same. And I really like his art style. It really draws your attention because it feels so different. I mean, think about it. And I think this is what I was thinking when I was reading this, is to watch this manga that was all about these kids with superpowers, and it somehow has now turned into a society that's breaking down, and that these heroes that used to be idolized are now hated. I think it's so interesting to see Deku, who's been kind of this very, not one-dimensional, that's not the right word, but like unchanging. I'm following All Might, I'm going to be a hero, and he's changed a small bit, but you kind of know what I mean when I'm trying to say that. Like he's been this straight path. He's been, to use a comic book, like he's been like this Captain America, very honest, good hero. And to watch him break, because he's always just saying, I'm fine, you know, I can do this. He's never thinking about himself. And I think that's a really cool direction that this series went. And I think watching all his friends be the only ones that saves him, because he turns on All Might, he just turns into this self-isolation thing. And again, to use like his characteristics that he's had throughout this entire series to validate that self-isolation was a really interesting choice on the author's part. And I think it works. It works for me when I was reading it. I was enthralled with this. I think it's like 22 chapters. I just kept going. Just kept going and going. Because I just would have never thought that it would have went that way. You know? He just never seemed like the character. He seemed like the Goku, you know? The Goku never really went bad. He was just always kind of, yeah, he got angry and these things happened, but he never went full on mental break. And to watch Deku as a character do that was awesome. I know I've probably repeated that 20 times at this point, but it is past midnight right now, so I'm a little tired. And I didn't think that this arc would like hit me emotionally. Not in like a crazy way, but in a way of like watching his classmates save him and listening to every classmate kind of voice why Deku mattered to them and still matters to them. And again, I said it a little bit ago in this video, I will say it again, Bakugo, my man, listen, I know we had some things. I know I said some things. Okay, I said some things. That's on me. I accept responsibility. But that speech between, not even between, it's just Deku listening to that speech, and the way the panels like change their clothing from young to school uniform to hero uniform, I thought was awesome. It was so good, so good. I think I even said that Ida has not really been part of the show, and he's the one that grabs his hand. And to use his brother's stuff from the Stain arc in that moment, and to use it so well. Come on, man. And then to watch your gravity, I really probably should Ocho? Let me know in the comments. It's going to be too late because this video is already going to be posted, but I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I'm sorry. To watch her speech about not just Deku, but kind of making these people that have turned on these idols that they used to hold dear, and to kind of make them realize what they're doing to this high school kid, to this young kid, turning him away from the only place that is kind of his safe haven. And again, like, even seeing the All Might statue saying, "You are not here," and the last person All Might saved comes by and cleans it up every night. Just those little moments in this story. And I think it's been done in hero stuff, comics and things like that, but I think My Hero Academia really nailed the tone of it. And they nailed the gravity of the situation, and I think they nailed showing this world turn into this abyss, because the League of Villains and All for One have destroyed the morality of everyone, has destroyed everyone's spirits. At least, people's spirits, but they slowly get it back. And to use All for One and the connection that the users have, and he's like, these are the stars that connect, and then this connects to this, and then that connects to that, and to use the quirk itself as an example of what all these heroes were doing to try to connect everyone together to face the ultimate threat, one of the worst threats that they've ever faced, was really clever. I liked that a lot. I liked everything about this. I know you probably can tell by my rambling at after midnight, and I know I'm not that high energy, but this wasn't like a high energy arc. This was there was a lot of action. Deku, let me tell you, Deku was holding no qualms. So much so with the sniper lady, and All for One had a contingency plan for her, and that was wild. But it's a brutal, dark arc, and it's really putting these characters through their paces, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. And then we get to see Stain's randomly there, and gives All Might some intel about Tartarus. So Stain's just there. That was pretty cool to see him. I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, hey, Stain. But yeah, just from Deku's art style to the changes that he was going through and the pain that he was going through, and watching his friends save him, and watching the world turn on these heroes that we've been following this entire series, and to watch the world change so much since the beginning of this series was really enjoyable to read. And I cannot wait to see how all this wraps up, because we're pretty close. I think we're chapter 329, so almost less than 100. So we'll see. But yeah, it's midnight. I'm gonna get some sleep because I got some reading to do tomorrow. But yeah, I love this arc. I love this arc a lot.
Yeah. Okay, this is the first time I've done this entire video. I'm only at chapter 364. I'm in the final arc. We're finally here. It's Saturday afternoon. I think I actually might make it to the final chapter by Sunday. Now, Will this video be released on Sunday? Highly unlikely. But I will actually have read the chapter on the day it was released, which was kind of like the whole goal of this. But I need to talk about this. Chapter 364 is where I'm at. There's already a lot to talk about. And here we go. Okay, so Naval Laser guy, insert name right here, was a spy, a traitor the whole time. Now it makes sense why he was staring at Midoriya Deku through that window. Man, yeah, I didn't see that coming. I kind of do wish a little bit they would have, like, gave us little secrets, but I guess, like, the shock of, like, oh, man, this guy is in on it, and he is with All for One from the beginning. But then Deku doesn't really get mad at him. You know, he's trying to see the good in everyone. He's trying to be, in the truest sense of the word, a hero. And the whole Class 1A kind of stands beside him. And then they come up with a plan. And then the battle begins. And let me tell you, it's been non-stop this entire time. I'm only taking this break because I would be afraid to forget some key stuff that I just really want to talk about. First off, their plan is to kind of separate and everyone kind of have their own little battles. But Deku gets taken by Toga and she kind of has words with him and kind of falls out of love with him, basically. And so he is not in the battle. One for All and All for One are not battling because he was taken to a different thing. So he is trying to get there. In the meantime, Todoroki and Dabi face off. And let me tell you, I know I've been very vocal this entire video about the Todoroki family, but my God, love this payoff. I love that Todoroki pulls it off after this incredible back and forth battle, and even Bakugo, because it gets announced, because the heroes are kind of getting beaten. But Todoroki coming through, and Bakugo says, I would have expected nothing less from you. And everyone gets spurred by this victory, except for Endeavor, who Hawks and Endeavor are taking on All for One. And while Todoroki might be doing great, Endeavor's really struggling, and this inner struggle that Endeavor's having with his sons and this battle, and Hawks notices this and kind of is there to support him, and All for One is playing these mind games with him. And I thought that was really well done. But here is the part that I am furious about. All these battles are going on. Deku is supposed to be with Bakugo, Genis, and there's a few others as they take on Shigaraki. But again, he got pulled in a different direction. But you know who's not going to let that stop him? Bakugo. And let me tell you, listen, we can flashback real quick to the beginning. Bakugo definitely comes off as the stereotypical arch rival. He definitely just comes off as a complainer. That's what, listen, a complainer. He is, I really did not connect with him. Those are my words about him. I didn't really like him. Boy, have I pivoted hard. A full 180. He stands so strong against Shigaraki. And Shigaraki's like really beating him down. And even kind of getting to him where it hurts. Saying, you know, he's just an extra. He's just a side character. He will never measure up to Deku. And, you know, he's getting obliterated. Even so much that the big trio, Sun Eater and all of them, kind of step in and get him away from the battle because he was not going to make it. And Genis is trying to talk with him. And he has built up his explosions. And during this big attack with the big three, Bakugo jumps in. And he gets his heart pierced. All right. Okay. Let's back the truck up. Okay, just back it up. Just come on back. Come on back. I understand why he wouldn't make it from a story perspective of like, and even All for One says this, is you thought you were going to bring these students to this grand battle and they were all going to make it alive? Like they were all going to make it out? So I get it. And he's a great one to do it with because he, out of really all of the class, he's changed the most. And he's really evolved. So much so, like I said, like just taken from me as a reader that started off not really being my type of character. He really seemed like a cookie cutter Vegeta type character, and they have led him on this trajectory. He's had a great arc, and I understand this ending, but that sucks, man. Like, for me, giving him so much trash about like being Vegeta, I kind of imagined that the way this ends is a Goku and Vegeta thing. Like, you kind of end with them training together, or like he's gonna be the endeavor to his All Might. Like, you see that, you see the thing, but I guess now Todoroki is kind of gonna be his endeavor to his All Might in the future. If Deku makes it out, I bet Deku's kind of got to make it out, right? That'd be crazy if he didn't. But Mike, what a sacrifice! It was really well executed, so much so that I've taken a break from reading, and I'm trying to put together this video because, again, Sunday is tomorrow, and buddy, there's still so much to be done with this video. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this video. Honestly, if you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. I can't imagine how long this video is. Yeah, I had to take a break just because that it was super well executed scene. Really well executed, but in my heart, I don't want to believe it. And again, it kind of just happened. So there is the possibility, but there is a panel of his heart not making it. So it's looking like it's the end of Bakugo. I wonder, because Deku's got to get there, obviously, for this, because we're getting close. We got like maybe 60 chapters left, right? We're getting close. So Deku's got to make it there. He's got to see Bakugo. Now, does he see Bakugo's body? Or is Bakugo kind of going to hang on and like give him one more thing? And then that's how we get the final confrontation. I can see that happening as well. We will see. I probably should just go read instead of rambling on in this already long video. I understand. But I didn't want to forget like how I'm feeling right now. So I turned on this camera. It was a fantastic scene with him and Bakugo, regardless if maybe he somehow makes it. But again, it's looking real finite. I just really wanted to talk about, like, he had a great character arc and character trajectory in this whole series. He really became a super standout to me, and especially coming from somebody that didn't really like his characterization from the beginning. And well done. Well done. But yeah, all right, just a little intermission. Let's go back to reading more My Hero Academia. We're getting close to the end. We're going to do it, man. That's crazy. It seemed impossible not 3 days ago, but I think if I can push through, I will read the final chapter when it is released tomorrow afternoon. Exciting. We did it. We actually did it. I have read all the way up to chapter 429 with like 45 minutes until the new chapter is released, or the final chapter is released. I cannot believe it. Since the last time we talked, some things have happened. I'm going to be honest with you. The understatement of the year, some things have happened. So I'm going to go in sections of characters. I think that's going to be the easiest. Obviously, spoilers, but I'm going to be honest. If you've made it this far into the video, first off, what a legend. I really appreciate you. Second off, there's been spoilers this entire time. So, but I guess since this is relatively new, you know what I mean? Spoilers. So I thought Bakugo had died. We're going to get this right off the bat. And then Edgeshot went inside of him, stitched up his heart, and Bakugo is back on the battlefield. And a versus that I never thought would happen actually happened. And I think it's one of the best. So everyone's obviously telling Bakugo to relax, and typical Bakugo fashion, he does not. And it becomes Bakugo versus old All For One, not Shigaraki All For One. It gets very confusing, but hear me out. And I love the fact that Bakugo goes against him and fights against him, which he's been doing since this entire series. A lot of these characters, like when you look at their arc through the entire series, it really culminates. Obviously, since this is the final little bit, it really culminates. And the payoffs are so good. Bakugo, who's stubbornness, arrogance that people thought would kind of be his downfall. Me included. Listen, Bakugo, I've said some things, but I'm here. I'm right here. His arrogance is the reason that he can fight All for One. And not only that, beat him to the extent that he has to go all the way back into non-existence. And I think that's really good payoff, because All for One even calls him like a side character, an extra. How is this extra doing all this to me? You're supposed to be a pebble in my path. And Bakugo says, no. I'm right here. And I'm not losing. And for that battle to be finished, and he was like, man, I really want to do All Might's pose. But it's just him laying there with his fists up. The payoff for Bakugo's character. But then I would be remiss to not talk about the Todoroki family. The Todoroki family, which I have been a proponent of this entire time. And their arc trajectory was incredible. Having Endeavor basically hug Dabi all the way into the stratosphere, and thinking that he's going to sacrifice himself for his penance and everything that he has become and everything that he's done to his family. But then his family shows up, and they all kind of face Dabi and really even what Dabi says, like what they all helped create. And then for Dabi to be like, everyone's finally looking at me, finally noticing me. And now Shoto comes and, basically saves everyone, but they all end up with burns all over their body. And they're all kind of matching now in a weird way. I just think it's really cool to have a story about trauma and this family in the middle of this superhero manga. And I think watching all of these characters deal with trauma in their own way, and I'll kind of spoil the epilogue part of it too, to see that it's not all fixed. It's not all hunky-dory and a good time. Endeavor has retired. Shoto's going back to school. And the other son doesn't want anything to do with his father. And Dabi is slowly, painfully dying. And Endeavor says, I'm going to visit you every day. And Dabi finally kind of has a breakthrough in his final little moments and talks about soba noodles. And Todoroki's like, oh, that's my favorite too. And I think he kind of has the epiphany that maybe if he would have just talked with Todoroki and this whole family kind of, if they would have just talked about it, if they would have just came together, maybe, just maybe, they could have saved Dabi from walking down the path that he walked down. And obviously the big fight, Deku versus Shigaraki. Boy, does this battle go places. So much so that Deku has to send his predecessors into Shigaraki and try to basically break him free, because All for One's spirit is kind of trying to take him over. And I really like the fact that Deku goes basically into Shigaraki and experiences, what we kind of already know about his origins. The one thing I will say, why'd you have to bring back the dog part? Come on. Why'd you have to bring it? We just got over it. You're going to bring it back? But instead of Shigaraki kind of decaying his sister, Deku comes and tries to stop him at the cost of his arms. And he finally has a breakthrough with Shigaraki. And after this, sending his predecessors and this internal fight that Deku has with Shigaraki, Eraserhead turns up, and let me tell you, I will tell you this, Eraserhead is a absolute pinnacle legend character in this manga. Unsung hero. I've said it before in this video, and I will say it again, unsung hero. And they basically have their Avengers moment where all able fighters and heroes kind of ascend on this battlefield, and that was a really good moment, because I think that says the bigger story and kind of probably what, at least the message that I've gotten out of My Hero Academia, is because this battle was being broadcast and everyone was seeing Deku and all of these people stand up when they wanted to give up. So much so that Deku is now running in an All Might t-shirt. Everyone wants to help, so much so that Eri breaks off her horn. Heroes that have retired decide to help, and these characters that Deku has affected with his never give up attitude are all there to support him, because now he doesn't have All for One. He's only got the Ember, like we met All Might in the beginning. And it's a very full circle moment. So as this fight is being broadcast to the world and everyone's singing and everyone's screaming for Deku to go, he's got this, never give up, we're here to support you, he finally breaks through to Shigaraki. And Shigaraki finally smiles as he is kind of disintegrated. And you know, the heroes win. Obviously, there has been a ton of injuries and damage and destruction and all of these things that they have to rebuild. But something incredible happened. The people, you know, the day-to-day people, the people that were not in the hero classes, has kind of witnessed, because again, we kind of jump into this story in a time of peace, and they have witnessed this grand battle and the heroics of all of these people, and stuff starts to change. And one of the things that I really liked in this little bit of epilogue, again, you know, we only got one more chapter left, but the old lady that walked past Shigaraki, throughout these epilogue chapters, you know, it's kind of like he's setting up a big bad. There's a guy kind of stumbling and a young kid talking about how his mouth was sewn shut and why did he have to suffer, and he's kind of dripping and looking real disheveled and injured, and there's a lot of trauma. And the old lady that passed Shigaraki takes his hand. And so I think that kind of shows you the effect that Deku and everybody and the story that we read, its effect on the world, where now people are standing up and people are doing the right thing. And there is this peace because heroes are going to have time to kill. And even though Deku has lost All for One pretty much, he's got a little bit of an ember left, and Bakugo, when he breaks down, that's a great scene when they are in the hospital. And Bakugo's like, I was going to just be on your heels forever. And Deku's like, don't be sad. This power gave me a glimpse into the world I always wanted to be a part of. And so much so that Deku has left his mark on the world that he always wanted to be a part of. I think that's really powerful. And I think that's a good message about just being kind and making a difference where and when you can. And I think My Hero Academia does that message justice with this story. But yeah, I mean, that battle was incredible. It was nonstop action, panel after panel, page after page, and you were like, heroes were coming to save him. You saw a bunch of heroes, you know, side characters, extras that throughout the Deku has kind of culminated, and everyone came together to help achieve the victory of history's greatest villain. And to watch their success and to watch kind of what happens afterwards and the rebuilding and the world. Like I said, I don't think a lot is going to change in this final chapter, so there's probably not going to be much to talk about, but I just wanted to say how I'm feeling before I kind of forget that while I wait for the final chapter to be released. So yeah, we got one more chapter, and then we are done with My Hero Academia. It's been a crazy journey. Okay, so it is done. The final chapter, 430, has been read. I know, you're wondering, why did you change your clothes? I had a little bit of run around to do this morning, but it is done. We have finished My Hero Academia. Or have we? I have some thoughts on that too. So the final chapter jumps 8 years ahead, and we see all of the Class 1A kind of being pro-heroes, and Deku has lost his quirk, and Bakugo is still very aggressive with the public, let's say. But, you know, we kind of just do the flash forward. And again, I think it just nails home what this whole point, or at least what I got out of reading My Hero Academia, which is anyone can kind of be good to other people. Anyone can be heroes, you know. But we see that society is kind of rebuilt, you know, and now the heroes that we've been following are now young kids' favorite heroes, and the cycle has kind of continued, and Deku is still doing what he does best, and what I actually think his gift is, which is bringing out the best in people and showing people that anything, any quirk or anything can be used for the betterment of everyone. You know, he runs into a kid that's at the All Might statue, and he kind of, his quirk is he has these little circles, and he can just basically throw it. And then Deku does what he's done since the very beginning. He does the muttering thing where he's like, well, you could do this. You could probably use it for this. You could actually use it for this. And I don't know. I really think that they stuck that landing with that ending, because technically there's a second ending. I'll get to that in a second. But overall, I just want to say I didn't expect this story to go in the direction of villains and heroes are not as different as you think they are. And that anyone, no matter how big or how small, can have a great impact on the world. And that, I think, was the message of My Hero Academia, which, again, we followed someone that never had a quirk, got the quirk, and ended up being one of the greatest heroes in this world. But wait, that's not the actual ending, because All Might grabs the ending thing and crushes it. And he has a present for Deku. And I actually didn't talk about this in one of these parts of talking about kind of the ending. He presents Deku with basically what I'm going to call an Iron Man suit, which is a suit that he wore to buy time during the One for All for One fight. I didn't really talk about it in that video, but I do think it worked in the context of the story. It wasn't one of my favorite parts. It wasn't one of the worst parts of the thing. It was just kind of like All Might's character. It was the biggest battle probably of his generation, of the world, you know, almost in history. And for someone that was the pillar of hope, he had to rely on mechanisms, kind of, to join the battle. But even though he was quirkless, he still had no fear. And I did think that was a good part of that arc. But his present to Deku is one of those suits. And the final panel is Deku in the suit with everyone from Class 1A. Which, again, I think it's kind of good. You know, Deku kind of gets to go out still, maybe not on the front lines, and he doesn't get to be like this powerful entity, but he can still be there with his friends and help people in battle, which is what he would love to do. But here's why I think it's interesting. So, My Hero Academia ended with this kind of pivot at the end. Since it's an 8-year time jump, what if it's just called something else? Listen, again, it just came out today. I have no, let's theorize. We haven't been able to really theorize a lot this video, and then we'll wrap this up, I promise. I know it's already long enough as it is. But, yeah. What if My Hero Academia, or the characters of My Hero Academia, aren't quite done yet? I do think that ending gives him an out. Maybe not soon, but down the line a little bit. Maybe revisit these characters and see what they're doing when they're older, when they are pro heroes. I don't know. I definitely think Deku getting that suit and the way that he phrased it or posed it in the manga, which was like the end, and then he crunched it, and then we have that little bonus, basically like a post-credit scene of a Marvel movie, which definitely seems on brand for this kind of series. But yeah, do you actually think that we will never see Deku, Bakugo, and all of the Class 1A students ever again? Do you think their story is finished? Because I have a sneaking suspicion they're not quite done yet. But yeah, that is it. You have made it to the end of this video. I wholeheartedly appreciate you. If you have watched this entire video, we should think of like a secret word to put in the comments. If you watch this entire video, and hopefully you enjoyed it too, because it was really, really fun to make. But the secret word, bell peppers. That's the secret word. You put that in the comments. But yeah, I truthfully, wholeheartedly appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video and watch kind of my journey through My Hero Academia. I'm super stoked that I did this video and I followed through because it was one of those rare instances that we've talked about before in videos where you've put a series down, it really wasn't for you, and you come back to it, and there was definitely a lot in there that I really enjoyed, and I definitely changed my opinion of the series. Now, whether I think it's, you know, one of the greatest series ever or not, it's remained to be seen. I need some more time with it. It's very fresh. But overall, I am so happy that I actually read through all of My Hero Academia. And again, thanks for coming along. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, I hope if you're having a bad day, it gets better. If you're having a good day, I hope it becomes fantastic. I'll see you next time.